Before I talk about online retail employment, I'll talk about yesterday's Australian employment numbers. Uh, the numbers are really good, and there's rapid and improving growth in full-time jobs, and that supports our view that the Australian economy is accelerating from a touch over 2% growth this year to 3% growth rate by the time you get to the middle of next year and through next year. And that's good because you have faster growth, you have faster earnings growth, and uh, a general better feel about the Australian economy. Now, there's been some commentary in the AFR that falling unemployment level that associated with that will generate a situation where rates will need to go up relatively soon. I don't think that's true. If I project forward Australian unemployment in exactly the same way as I project forward US unemployment, it takes up until August 2019 before the level of unemployment falls below the natural rate of unemployment in Australia at 5%. And it's only when it's falling below the natural rate of unemployment that it generates a shortage of labour and higher wages growth and higher inflation, and that generates the circumstance for rising interest rates. And why is unemployment falling so slowly? Well, because there's a large level of underemployment in Australia. About 2.5% of the Australian labour force is working part-time, which would but wants to work full-time, and those people have to be absorbed into full-time, and that's why it's taking so long for unemployment to fall. Yesterday, I published a piece on US online employment and online sales, as a matter of fact, and it was a review of a piece that was done by two researchers of the New York Fed. It's a really interesting study on a number of levels. It talks initially about sales and how sales have increased, and it talks about employment and how employment has increased in online retailing. And it points out that in the early 1990s, there was 2% or less of the US labour force employed in that, or even retail, the labour force employed in that. And now there's about 11% of the total US retail labour force is employed online. It's only since 2012 that that's had a big impact, though. The growth in online retailing has had a big impact on other sectors of retailing in the United States. And it's only since 2012 that the acceleration of online sales has generated a decline in retail employment in department stores. Since that time, you can see pretty much job for job that as a job is lost in department store employment, that job is gained in online employment. But the locations are in different, where those jobs are in the US in different places. If you have a department store, you've got to have a department store pretty much everywhere. You've got a major city that you've got to market, but if you've got online retailing, you can have it in the most efficient place. And it turns out that the most efficient place in the US, well, at least that's what the firms think, is in Kings County, Washington State. Now, Washington State is that foggy place immediately north of California, which is the sunny place to the south. Now, why would firms locate to Washington State? Well, because California has, I think, the second highest state income tax in the United States, and Washington State has no state income tax at all. So it turns out that Amazon, which is, of course, the biggest online retailer, is located in Washington State. So is Microsoft, interestingly. One of the intriguing points that I in writing this piece was to see that as jobs are lost by department stores and they are gained by online employment. The people in online employment are paid more than the people in department stores. And that's because the people working in online retailing are usually working full time, and they're a touch more highly qualified. Matter of fact, they're paid about 2.5 times as much. These trends are accelerating in the US, and it's interesting to see Amazon locating to Melbourne in Australia in Melbourne winters. The foggy, cool Melbourne winters will make them feel just like they're home in Washington State.